Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Panji Permana Sulaeman, and at this time, I'm going to present about my plan of my research proposal with the title, The Correlation Between Students' Speaking Anxiety and Their Speaking Performance. The content of this presentation are first background, and then research question, introduction, literature review, and then the last is research methodology. So let's start with the first, that is background. Speaking skill is one of 4 skills which help to master in learning English language. As stated by Sari in 2006, speaking skill is a means of success in learning English language. Speaking skill is become an important skill because speaking skill play a pivotal role in communication process. So that's why speaking skill become important in order to communicate with other people. However, as stated by Dinser and Yesilut in 2017, speaking is known as the most difficult to learn among the 4 skills because there is no guarantee students will practice English outside the classroom. One of the facts that make the students feel difficult in learning English, especially speaking, is their anxiety. Many studies related to foreign language speaking anxiety have been conducted. As conducted by Deverly in 2016, he investigated the source of language anxiety among Turkish university students. The study found that being unprepared and being asked immediately questions were the first 2 among the other sources. Also, he explained the reason why they felt anxious were because they were fear of making mistakes and being negatively evaluated. So other studies conducted by Amalia in 2018, she investigated the correlation between students' speaking anxiety and their speaking performance in an EFL context. So these 2 studies become my motivation to conduct this research. So that's why the objective of this research is to find out whether there's a correlation between students' speaking anxiety and their speaking performance at 2nd grade of senior high school or not. Alright, next we move to the research questions. Is there a correlation between students' speaking anxiety and their speaking performance? Alright, next we move to introduction. So in introduction, there are 3 parts here. The first, operational definition, and then the second, the aim of the research, and then the last, the use of the research. So the first one is operational definition. So in operational definition, we provide a definition about the variables that related to this research, that is anxiety and speaking. So anxiety is a general term of mental disorders that can cause nervousness, the subjective feeling of tension, apprehension, worry, vague fear, uneasiness, frustration, self-doubt associated with an arousal of the automatic nervous system. And then the second is speaking. By constructing some definitions from the expert, I can found that speaking is the ability to speak fluency presupposed not only knowledge of language features, but also the ability to process information and language on the spot, where he or she is able to pronounce the words correctly, apply the grammatical of sentence, have more vocabulary, fluently to communicate comprehensively the meaningful of the conversation. And then next is the aim of the research. So the aim of this research is to find out the correlation between students' speaking anxiety and their speaking performance at 2nd grade of senior high school. And then the last one in introduction is the use of the results. So the result of the study will be beneficial for the participant and expected to give the information to the participants about their speaking anxiety level. Alright, let's move to the next content, and that is literature review. So in literature review, I provide more detailed information about the variables, that is anxiety and speaking. But at this time, I'm going to explain briefly about the anxiety, the information of anxiety and speaking. So in anxiety, I provide some definitions from some expert, for example, from Brown in 2007. He defined that anxiety is associated with a feeling of uneasiness, frustration, self-doubt, apprehension, or worry. Alright, and the additional information is the primary sources of language anxiety stated by Howard and Cope in 1986 are: first, communication apprehensions, that is the fear of communicating with other people, and then the second is test anxiety, that is fear of exam, quizzes, and other assignment used to evaluate students' performance, and then the last is fear of negative evaluations, that is worry about how others view the speakers. And then for the second variable is speaking. So also I provide some definitions from some expert here. For example, from Harmer in 2001, he defines speaking ability as the ability to speak fluency presupposed not only knowledge of language features, but also the ability to process information about language on the spot. Also, for additional information, according to Harris in 1974, there are 5 components to measure student speaking ability as follows. First is fluency, and then second is pronunciation, and then the third is vocabulary, and the next is grammar, and then the last is comprehension. Alright, let's move to the last content at this presentation, that is research methodology. So in research methodology, there are research method, and then population and sample, and then data analysis, and then the data collection. And then for the first is research method. In this research, I will use correlational study analysis, because according to Halonen and Santrock in 1999, a correlational study is a method which has a goal of describing the strength of the relation between 2 or more events or characteristics. So, as I said before, I conduct this research is to investigate the correlation between the students' speaking anxiety and their speaking performance. So, I think that correlational study analysis is an appropriate method. And then for the population and sample, all the students from 2nd grade of SMA Negeri 1 Cineam will be selected as the population in this research, and I will need 30 students as the participants. So to select these students, I will use a random sampling so that all the students have a chance to be selected as the participant. And then next is time and place of this research. I will conduct this research at SMA Negeri 1 Cineam in Jalan Raya Cineam, Tasikmalaya, and then in February 2021. Alright, next is data collections. So I will use questionnaire and speaking test as the instrument in collecting the data. So questionnaire that I will use in this research is Foreign Language Classroom Anxiety Scale, or FLCAS. And then for the speaking test, I will use to know the student's speaking ability. And then for the research procedure, I will use speaking test first. The students have to make an interpersonal dialogue, and the topic is about asking and giving opinion. And then after that, they perform it in front of the class. And after all the participants do this activity, I will give them the questionnaire, the Foreign Language and Classroom Anxiety Scale questionnaire. And then for the last is data analysis. So in the data analysis, in this study, I will implement Pearson product moment correlation technique to process the data in order to find out the correlation between students' anxiety and their speaking performance. So that's all for the presentation. Thank you for your nice attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.